it was all very natural to me, and it seemed easier to go the natural route than to go the hard route, which was, you know, right, I'm going to go Jesus' way, because I didn't read the Bible, and nobody had told me that the Bible was to be read. And I just think we've learnt a lot since then.
Okay.
We've come a long way.
So you went back into occultism. Were you aware at the time that that was a clash with what you had committed yourself to, or did you sort of try and carry on your Christian beliefs alongside somehow?
It did. It melded into the sort of the New Age thing about there are lots of different ways to God, and we'll all get there in the end, which is a very nice thing to think. It's a very good thing to think if you want to go that route. And it was very easy, because also it puts the power of God in you. You believe that you've got God in you. So in a way, man is becoming God, and you're becoming God, and you're all going to grow up to be God together.
Okay, so that was one side of your life. You had a flirtation, if you like, with Christianity. You went back into the occult. What was happening with your gay lifestyle?
Well, that was growing. That was growing all the time.
Well, did you perceive some kind of clash between that and your Christian beliefs?
No, not at that time, because I hadn't read the Levitical things and all the rest of it. I just thought, no, this is the way I am. This is the way God has made me, and therefore I must be this way. I wasn't, in my deep bit, I wasn't happy. In my deep bit, I wasn't happy. But in the end, you have to cope with yourself so much that you layer above what your spirit is really thinking and just go with what there is.
So, career-wise, you went to college, music college?
Music college. Then had a sort of a concert career for a while, and then got seduced into theatre because it paid better, and stayed there ever since, really.
And theatre, of course, is well known for attracting gay people.
There are a lot of gay people in the theatre, and it's fun. They're great fun, great friends.
Well, we've got an early photo, I know, of you. Very well-toned, slim, and highlights in your hair. Very high-maintenance appearance. Were you overly conscious of how you were coming across?
Yes, you do, because you've got to be thin and you've got to look good, otherwise you don't get yourself a fella. Really, it's that simple. I mean, I used to take diet pills, and goodness knows, you know, to stay thin. And you take the result of those as you stop taking them. You know, you balloon out.
Well, ordinary homosexual relationships still enough for you at this time, or did you explore any of the kind of wider reaches of
homosexuality? I went very deeply into the wider reaches. Yeah, no, I went into sadomasochism quite heavily. And, I mean, that's, I think, and also a self-hate thing. And I've discovered, in retrospect, that there was an awful lot of conflict in my life. And the fact is that the sadomasochism was just another aspect of conflict. And it also helped you accept yourself. It took out choice.
Is this because behind all of this exploration is a search for something in particular, do you think, or someone in particular?
Absolutely. You're looking for the ultimate man, and, you know, you'll go anywhere to find it. But also, your sexual experience is so unsatisfying that you will go deeper and deeper for a more satisfying sexual experience, or a more exciting sexual experience. I mean, in drugs, people go from light drugs to heavy drugs, don't they? And it's the same way in this. You go from light sex to heavy sex to even heavier sex. I mean, people have died in that search, certainly in the homosexual community.
So you had this somewhat chaotic existence in many ways.
Absolutely.
And somehow, in your sense, there was a continuation of your Christian beliefs alongside?
Yeah.
What clarified everything for you? Was there a particular point? What happened?
Well, I recommitted my life to Jesus. And I knew it was right. And I knew that this time it had to be different. And there was all sorts of turmoil going on inside, because, of course, there were all sorts of clashes happening inside. What I feel is that the deposit I put in, that God had put in when I was 18, was now being called in. God was calling in His word. He'd given a deposit. He'd let me live that long, because, of course, my generation were the beginning of the AIDS generation, and it was very easy to... Nobody knew about it then.
Yeah.
So He let me live that long, and He decided today was the day, and that day I recommitted to Jesus.
So the muddied waters cleared, if you like, for
well,
you
I think the silt
night.
started coming to the surface.
Okay, then.
And gradually God began to open up a way.
Well, the first time you gave your life to Jesus, you didn't have anybody really around you to draw from and to help you understand. Did you have anybody this time?
Yes, I'd made a friend in the bookshop at the Barbara McCall bookshop in Edinburgh, and they very kindly looked after me while I was there, because I went to see them the next day, and they weren't at all surprised. They just took it in their stride, and that surprised me. And they then got me in touch with a church in London, a little Brethren church, and I started going to that.
And what particularly did you draw from that church?
Wonderful Bible teaching. I got really good grounding in the scriptures, really good grounding in biblical facts and biblical spiritual ways to live. And I just started feeling inside myself that not that I needed more, but there was something else for me. And somebody suggested that I went to see and have some healing.
Healing, presumably connected with your gay lifestyle.
They didn't know, or they hadn't brought that up. Nobody had ever brought that up.
Is that what you intuited?
I perceived it to be that, and also from the occult experiences, because I felt quite wounded in lots of respects. In a way, I felt as though my spirit had been scratched in many ways. It had been really hurt. And that, in fact, something was still gnawing at it.
Okay, so
and I didn't know what that was.
You went to see this person?
I went to the church, yes, and I had made an arrangement to see John Barr. And he prayed for me, and he said, "My brother, you've got a homosexual spirit. Let's pray about it."
Had you mentioned it to him?
No, not at all.
Right. So he prayed. What happened, Paul?
I felt as though I had my eyeballs taken out and washed. That's the only way I can explain it. I felt clean afterwards.
Now, when it comes to issues such as depression, eating disorders, Christians can be very happy just to allow for the fact that people don't often jump from one out into complete freedom.
No.
How did you find Christians' attitudes towards you as a gay person, or somebody who'd wrestled at least with a gay lifestyle? Did you find something of a condemning attitude, or what did you experience?
I think it's a non-spoken fear, really. I think you pick it up as a non-spoken fear. John was very good. He saw the best in me and knew that God had put a deposit in, and knew that God in his time would work it out. And I think that's what we've got to remember, that God's agenda is different to ours. God's agenda is different to man's. In my case, God didn't touch the homosexuality for 2 years. He just left me. What he did do, he dealt with issues that were surrounding it and intertwined with it, and extricated those issues, and then dealt with that.
Are you talking about the occult?
He dealt with the occult, he dealt with all sorts of personal problems.
Yeah.
My relationship with him, he closed my career down completely, and it was a real eyeball to eyeball.
So 2 years later, when you say that God really put his finger on the whole gay lifestyle,
That's right.
What happened? Did you make a conscious decision to live a celibate lifestyle?
Yeah.
Right.
I decided that, yes, I was going to be celibate. I didn't know then it was a gift, and you couldn't do it without God giving you the gift, but I decided. And what I found was that God walked with me through that decision, and through the failures. He was with me in the decision and in the failures and in the successes.
Was it a difficult time? Was
Yes,
it a lonely time?
It was very lonely. Yes, it was lonely. But it actually developed my relationship with God, because he was the only person I could really fall on. I had to fall on him. There was nowhere else to go. And he was there. He never, never let me down, even when I failed.
You told me earlier that something John Barr said to you, it was quite significant, that you used to go into gay bars just to look at one time, in this sort of period where you had made a decision, you just went to look, and John said to you, don't go anywhere, Paul, that Jesus isn't.
That's right.
Was that particularly significant for you?
It was, because I was really feeling if I can't take God in there with me, then I'm not safe. And I still live that now. If I can't take God somewhere with me, then I don't go, because I'm totally unsafe. And I think we need that sort of boundary in our lives. I certainly need that sort of boundary in my life.
Well, we have got a lovely photo of you and your wife, Jan. Tell me how you met and married her.
Well, we met at church. I remember when I first went to church, I heard this lovely singing voice, and I asked somebody who it was, and they said, "Oh, that's Jan West." And then we met through mutual friends, just had dinner together, and we became good friends, because I used to play for her and she used to sing, and we used to minister together. And I didn't know that she was interested in me in that way at all. I only found all that sort of stuff out later on. And of course, I was thinking, oh, this is a nice friendship. This is going along the lines quite nicely. And then it was just something happened. I felt different. I felt something that I'd never felt for a woman before. And that's what also when I used to go and think, well, I'm feeling this for a woman, yet surely I'm this. And there were times when I would go and sit outside a gay club at 2 o'clock in the morning and think, do I want that or do I want the other? What do I want? I don't know. And it was as if God was in the car with me saying, I want you this way. Come on. Come my way. Come my way all the time.
Well, one time sort of sexual feelings of any kind just wouldn't have seemed possible for you towards women.
No.
So what happened? Were you completely reorientated? All your feelings for men suddenly reorientated towards women at this point?
No, I only find one woman attractive. I think that's it. I mean, no problems with faithfulness there, really.
Special dispensation.
I think so, because, I mean, it is. I do find just Jan attractive. I mean, what God has done is a complete work, but it's only towards one woman.
Your early life as a Christian, as you've explained, it seems to be a case perhaps of 2 steps forward, one step back. But I wonder, does your old homosexual lifestyle still hold any attractions for you? Is it something you could ever go back to?
If I'm in a really bad mood with God, I'll scream at the ceiling, I'll go back, but I don't. And I couldn't. Physically, you just couldn't do it. It'd be an absolute impossibility. Absolutely impossible.
You see, Paul, inevitably some people are going to say that your Christian beliefs have caused you to smother your real sexual identity. What would you say to them?
Well, no, I think it's the other way around. I think my Christian beliefs have actually released what my true sexual identity is.
Excellent.
I've become complete in Jesus. Now, that's a really religious saying, but if we are made in the image of God, then we cannot not be like God. And so, therefore, if something doesn't come into line with God's character, then it can't be of God. And by God's Spirit and by God's grace, I brought my life into line with God's character. Well, I'm on the journey anyway, and this part of my life is in line with God.
So for you, Paul, becoming a Christian hasn't led to a denial of your sexuality, but a complete rediscovery of your true sexuality.
Yeah, there are bits of me that I never knew existed. Yes, absolutely. I was quite frightened, and one of the lies that I heard on the change was that my artistry and my creativity was all wrapped up in being a homosexual, and the fact that as I changed, my artistry and almost my career would go, and that's not true. I'm writing better music than I've ever written.
But it is true, isn't it? We don't hear very much of people who've made this sort of transition.
No.
Do you know of other people who have?
I know of a couple of other people, yes, I know. And it's a two-way street. A lot of gay people say, well, if a straight person becomes gay, then they've discovered their sexuality, and it's a point of rejoicing. But you can do the other way as well. You can become heterosexual if you want to. If one way is possible, the other way is equally possible.
You don't hear very much about that, do you?
No, but it's still true.
Paul, I wonder what advice you'd give to homosexuals, probably with Christian beliefs, who may be wrestling with the whole nature of homosexual temptation.
I'd just say, God's in it with you. He's in the struggle with you. And he's not going to let you down. He's going to be there. He's going to be hope. And he's going to be truth. And if you fail, then there's no condemnation. God's there. And if you succeed, God's in the success with you. Just hold on to him. He might not turn the sexuality around. He just might give you exactly what you need to live. He'll be in it with you all the time.
And what about for Christians who may be friendly with people who have a homosexual lifestyle?
Love them. Love them, accept them for who they are, where they are in their journey. We're all at different places. Accept them for who they are and go with them. Support them when they're having a bad time. Talk to them. Don't be afraid. It's almost still the unforgivable sin in the Christian church, and it shouldn't be. It's just the same as anything else.
If as a result of seeing this programme you have further questions on the issue of homosexuality and Christianity, or would appreciate more specific support in this area, you can contact Exodus International Europe at this address: Exodus International Europe,